United States and Iran appeared to be edging dangerously close to open war after President Donald Trump issued his most explicit warning yet to Tehran, declaring that time for negotiations was running out while announcing the deployment of a massive U.S. military armada to the region. Trump said the force, led by the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, was moving rapidly toward Iran with great force, enthusiasm, and purpose, signaling a readiness to act if diplomacy failed. According to Trump, the armada now heading toward Iran is even larger than the military force previously deployed to Venezuela ahead of the collapse of Nicolas Maduro's government earlier this month. He said the fleet was fully prepared to carry out its mission with speed and force if necessary, underscoring the seriousness of the deployment. In a sharply worded public statement, Trump recalled earlier warnings to Tehran, writing that Iran had been told to make a deal and claiming that when it refused, Operation Midnight Hammer, described as a massive devastation of Iran, followed. He warned that any future attack would be far worse, urging Iranian leaders not to let it happen again.
In June, we obliterated Iran's nuclear capacity in Operation Midnight Hammer. You saw that. People have been waiting for 22 years to do that, and we were right at the end. They were about a month away from having a nuclear weapon. We had to do it. And by the way, there's another beautiful armada floating beautifully toward Iran right now. So we'll see. I hope they make a deal. I hope they make a deal. They should have made a deal the first time they'd have a country.
The message marked the strongest indication so far that Trump was considering an imminent military strike should Iran refuse to negotiate over the future of its nuclear program. It also reflected a notable shift in the White House's justification for the naval buildup. While earlier statements had focused on Iran's violent crackdown on protesters, Trump's latest rhetoric placed primary emphasis on Tehran's nuclear activities. Earlier in the month, Trump had openly encouraged Iranians to continue protesting, telling them that help is on the way. He later walked back that message, saying the encouragement was no longer necessary because, according to his assessment, the killing has stopped. Despite the public escalation, speculation persisted behind the scenes that Trump had previously been holding back for several reasons, including limited U.S. military assets already positioned in the region, pressure from Gulf states urging restraint, and indications from Israel that it wanted more time to prepare for a possible large-scale Iranian retaliation. Testifying before the U.S. Senate on Wednesday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that thousands of people had been killed in Iran and assessed that the Iranian government was probably in its weakest position since the 1979 revolution. At the same time, Rubio cautioned against underestimating Tehran's remaining military strength. He warned that roughly 30,000 U.S. personnel in the region are within range of thousands of Iranian single-purpose drones and short-range ballistic missiles capable of threatening American forces. Rubio stressed the need for sufficient U.S. personnel in the region to guard against that danger and confirmed that Trump retains the option of preemptive defense, allowing the United States to strike Iran if there are indications Tehran is preparing an attack on U.S. forces. He added that Iran clearly possesses such capabilities, noting that the country has amassed thousands of domestically produced ballistic missiles. European diplomats said they had anticipated the crisis would intensify over the weekend and reported signs of anxiety within Israel about the potential scale of an Iranian response if hostilities break out. That concern was echoed in a stark warning from Ali Shamkhani, a senior advisor to Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, who wrote in a Hebrew-language social media post that any military action by the United States, from any source and at any level, would be regarded as the start of war. He warned that Iran's response would be immediate, comprehensive, and unprecedented, targeting not only the aggressor, but also the heart of Tel Aviv and all its supporters. Amid the escalating rhetoric, Gulf states and Turkey were reported to be actively communicating with both Washington and Tehran in an effort to find common ground. Iran, however, has remained firm in its position that it will not negotiate under pressure or accept preconditions. Still, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff said at the World Economic Forum in Davos that he believed a deal with Iran should be achievable. In recent days, Trump has broadened his objectives beyond Iran's remaining nuclear program to include its long-range missile capabilities, which U.S. officials view as the backbone of Tehran's ability to project military power. Trump went so far as to suggest that Supreme Leader Khamenei should step down from the world stage, a demand widely seen as unacceptable to Iran. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and President Masoud Pezeshkian have held talks with diplomats from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt, as the three Arab states work to reopen diplomatic channels without forcing Iran to accept a predetermined outcome. Those countries were credited with helping persuade Trump to show restraint 3 weeks earlier. Now, however, with greater military flexibility at his disposal and a renewed focus on Iran's nuclear ambitions rather than solely on the repression of protesters, Trump appears increasingly prepared to escalate the confrontation.